Hi, I'm interrupting my own video. I'm going to rename this Boundaries Changed My Life. It took 100 red flags before I finally said no. You feel the same way? Wait till you see. This is not a funny video. It's actually quite serious. But I know that you can resonate. Stick around because it's going to get interesting. Hey everybody. Have you ever felt that life hasn't turned out the way you thought it would? Like somewhere along the way you really settled for good enough instead of reaching out for what really lit you up? Circumstances. We have to fill roles in our life, right? I understand that. But I came across this TED Talks that touched my heart so deeply because this woman put it all into words. And I want to share a little bit about what I discovered. It is so special. It opened up my eyes because of how often I personally have settled in my life. Not because I wanted to, but because it was not rocking the boat, because I thought maybe it was too late for me to start over or too hard to change my life. Her story is such a beautiful reminder. I never heard of this woman before. Her name is Beattie Smith. She had a very illustrious career in the fashion industry, but she felt like she was just playing a role, and she realized that she was settling into a life that looks good to others, but not to her. How many of us have done the same? Maybe we settled into career because it was safe, because it had the right benefit package. You know the deal. And maybe also we didn't want to rock the boat too much. Bettie's story reminds us that settling isn't the same as living. It's never too late to break free. In fact, this young woman, Mandy Hale, I love this quotation by her. 10 years from now, make sure that you can say you chose your life. You didn't settle for it. At the beginning of my own divorce journey, I came across that quote, and let me tell you, it really immediately changed what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I don't want to look back 10 years and say I wish I had done that, because I'm 67. 10 years from now, I'll be 77. It gets harder to do things as you get older. Now is the time. So let's begin. The first step is being honest with yourself. Recognize when you're settling. There's a lot of reasons why we want to settle, and there's a lot of reasons why we feel trapped, that we can't change things. But really, think it through. Think, if you lived a life that truly fulfilled you, what would that life look like? What Beattie said makes me rethink the keys to unlocking my happiness is not fitting into someone else's mold, right? It's scary to say, I'm going to do something different. And think of all the people around you that will be inconvenienced because you choose to do something different. Especially if you've been doing what you're doing for decades. Am I right? But here's the truth. You don't need anyone's permission to pursue your dreams. And you owe it to yourself. When you get to this age, you look at the life that you have ahead of you as being much more valuable because it's a shorter time frame. So how do we change that? One thing that I liked about Bettie's story is that she didn't start changing her life until she was in her 50s. We've seen so many examples of women who have done tremendous things, 50, 60, 70, and beyond. I have an earlier video where I spoke about that. Age is not a limitation. In fact, age is an advantage, right? Because you get to 60, you have wisdom and you have resilience. We've all had to push through things that we didn't want to do. So knowing how to do big changes is something that we're really good at, but let's do it for ourselves. Watching Bettie's TED Talk helped me see that there are some practical steps that we can take to stop settling and start living. That was such a really big step for me, and I'm still struggling with it, but listening to her TED Talk really helped. I hope what I share is going to help you too. I realize there are 3 simple things we need to do to be able to stop settling and start living for ourselves. The first one is get honest about what you want. Ask yourself, if I wasn't worried what other people would think and how many people's feathers I would ruffle, what would I do differently? What makes me come alive? When we stop living for others and start living for ourselves, that's when the transformation happens. But that's also when you meet the resistance, because everybody has gotten accustomed to you being you for them. So now this is where you have to be brave and stick to your guns. The second point, let go of roles that no longer serve you. A lot of people are talking about giving back to the community and being a volunteer and doing and giving. I said this before, hold the phone. We have a lifetime of giving and doing for others. So maybe you have been looking after a family for decades. Maybe you've been looking after your parents. Maybe you've forgotten what it feels like to take care of yourself. Really take care. I'm not talking going to get a mani-pedi. Making a life change that serves you. That's frightening. That's huge, right? Or maybe you've stayed in a job or a relationship out of obligation. There are other reasons, but let's leave it there. It's okay to let go of roles that don't align with who you are. It's okay to step into a life that makes you happy. You don't need permission and you don't owe anybody anything. In fact, you owe yourself more than anything. I can't tell you how many times people that knew me while I was married and miserable don't recognize me. They will literally walk right by me. Not only have I changed my life, I changed the way I physically look. I stepped into myself again. That is such an incredible feeling, and it's a realization that happens over time. You deserve this. You deserve to have your life lived on your terms. Settling might feel comfortable, but it's not where your joy lives. When we stop settling and start taking decisions that make us happy, at first it's frightening. At first, we may have confrontations because we're not serving the role that we used to. This is a transition. You need to have conversations before you do these big steps so that they know what they can and cannot expect from you anymore. And even if you tell them, they'll still not like it. It's okay. They'll get used to it. It's a difficult thing to do, especially when you have a lot of responsibility. And you have to examine, is that really your responsibility? There's a book I read many years ago called Boundaries: When to Say Yes and How to Say No by Henry Cloud and Townsend. This book I will link below. It changed my life. I think it's in its 25th anniversary edition, and there are many spin-offs of that book. It's boundaries with your children, boundaries with your parents, boundaries with your spouse, boundaries with your siblings. It's boundaries with everything. But I just went through the one boundaries book. Try it. It's going to change your life. And there is something else. It's by Melody Beattie. It's called The Language of Letting Go. It's a book, but I have the app for over a decade, and I still look at it. The Language of Letting Go. She talks about all these things, and a lot of the times it's about boundaries, and a lot of the times it's about things that scare us as we step into our new life. These are such great things to help you on your journey. I really hope this helps. If this video resonated with you, like, share, subscribe. Come back next week. I have another empowering video for you. Thank you for watching. Have an empowered week.